The auction surprise * Captain Rick Granger wasn't looking for trouble. He just wanted a cheap ship, something that could fly from one planet to another without falling apart in the middle. He had retired from Space Patrol 5 years ago. Since then, he'd been doing odd jobs, cargo runs, repairs, sometimes smuggling, but only on weekends. Now he stood inside a hot, crowded auction hall on a backwater planet called Drelos 4. The walls were covered in rust. The auctioneer was half robot and half drunk, and the smell of oil mixed with old popcorn. "This is where dreams come to die," Rick muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. A new item came up on the screen. Lot 49. Old freighter, model X-17, one previous owner, minor engine damage, some extra cargo. Rick raised one eyebrow. Extra cargo? That sounded suspicious. But the ship itself looked solid in the image older, sure, but strong. And it was cheap. Starting bid, 800 credits. The auctioneer announced .silence. Nobody bid. Not even a single offer. Rick looked around. Everyone avoided eye contact. Either they knew something, or they were broke. He shrugged. What the hell? 800. Sold. The auctioneer shouted. Way too fast. To the lucky gentleman with absolutely no idea what he just bought, Rick blinked. That was fast. Later that day, Rick walked into Dock 12, where his new ship was parked. The freighter looked like a flying toaster. Scratched paint, busted lights, and one engine coughed smoke like a retired dragon. Well, baby, Rick said, patting the side, let's see what kind of disaster you are. The cargo bag creaked open. The lights flickered. Dust. Silence. A few empty crates. And then something else. In the far corner, half hidden behind some metal panels, was a glowing pod. About the size of a coffin. Smooth, silver, and very much not part of a normal freighter. Rick stepped closer, hand on his laser pistol. The pod beeped. Once, twice, then it opened. Mist rolled out. Cold air hissed. And inside, lying peacefully, was a woman, not human. She had smooth violet skin, long white hair, and markings like stars across her face. She wore armor light but strong, strange symbols glowing softly. Her eyes opened slowly. They were golden. Not yellow golden like melted sun. Rick stepped back. Okay, what the hell? She sat up and looked straight at him. Then she smiled. You are my bonded one, she said softly. I am yours now. Rick stared. What? She stood gracefully, like a trained soldier. You own the ship. The ship is bonded to me. Therefore, by the laws of the ancients, I am now your wife. Rick's jaw dropped. Wait, hold on. Back up? Wife? She tilted her head. Is this not pleasing? Rick blinked. I came here for a cheap ride, not a galactic honeymoon. He helped her down from the pod. She looked around the cargo bay like it was familiar like home. What's your name? He asked, still trying to believe this was real. Zelia, she said. War bonded of the Starburn clan. Rick ran a hand through his hair. Right. Of course. And I'm Rick. Rick from Sector 12. I buy ships that don't come with space brides. Zelia smiled again. You are funny. That is good. My last husband had no humor. Rick coughed. Wait, last? She didn't answer. Later, Rick sat in the cockpit, trying to contact the auction house. Yeah, hi. I bought a ship, and it came with a congratulations. The robot receptionist cut him off. All sales final. No refunds, no returns. Enjoy your lifetime companion. Click. The line went dead. Rick turned to Zelia, who had found the kitchen and was calmly making tea using ancient alien herbs. This is not normal, he said. Not for you, she replied. But where I come from, ships are sacred. They are bonded with warriors. When a ship changes hands, so does the warrior. Rick rubbed his face. Great. I bought a spaceship and accidentally got married. Just then, a ship's old control panel beeped. A message popped up on the screen. Warning. Unknown life signs detected. Unauthorized transmission detected. Zelia looked at it, and her smile faded. They have found me. Who? Rick asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out a blade from her armor, its edges glowing with energy. Rick swallowed. Okay. That's not the answer I wanted. Outside, another ship slowly uncloaked, black, sharp, and silent. Someone was coming. And they weren't here to say hello. Asterisk, alien wife. Human problems. Asterisk. Rick Granger wasn't sure what was worse. That his new spaceship had one working engine. That he had accidentally married a violet-skinned alien warrior. Or that a heavily armed warship was currently aiming laser cannons at him. Yeah, probably the last one. He stared at the control panel as warning lights blinked like disco lights on caffeine. Outside, the black ship hovered silently, cold and deadly. In the co-pilot's seat, Zelia calmly sharpened the blade. They are not here to negotiate. You think? Rick snapped. They're pointing weapons at us, like we owe them money, and maybe we do. I don't even know what this ship was used for. She looked at him, unbothered. This ship was once royal property, and I was its guardian. Now they want it back. And me with it. Rick gulped. Why do I feel like this marriage didn't come with a return policy? The chase began. Rick hit the thrusters. The ship coughed yes. Actually coughed then. Launched forward with a jolt that nearly knocked him out of the chair. Laser fire screamed past the hull. The freighter jerked left, right, then spun like a drunk pigeon dodging traffic. This ship was supposed to be trash, Rick yelled. Why? Are they treating it like it's made of gold? Zelia calmly touched the dashboard. Her hand glowed faintly. Symbols lit up across the ship, like it had been sleeping, and just got very annoyed. Because, she said, this is no ordinary ship. It is a legacy vessel. One of the last built by the Starburn Empire. Rick blinked. Cool, that explains. Nothing. After a bumpy escape and a very illegal hyperspace jump, Rick landed the ship on a hidden moon station called Scrap Rock 9. It wasn't much, mostly junkers, smugglers, and at least 3 noodle stands that didn't ask too many questions. Sat inside the ship, breathing hard, Zelia finally spoke. You must understand, Rick. I was created, trained, and bonded for a purpose. The Starborn made me as a protector. A living key. Rick raised an eyebrow. Key to what? A storage locker? She shook her head. To something dangerous. Something hidden inside this ship. Great, Rick thought. I didn't just marry a warrior. I married a walking treasure map. Later that night, Rick wandered into the ship's core room, a dark chamber filled with old tech, glowing lines, and a strange humming sound. He accidentally stepped on a panel. A secret console lit up. A hologram appeared of a tall alien with 6 eyes and a crown made of stars. The voice was ancient, echoing. To the new bearer of the legacy ship, know this. You have awakened something forgotten. Inside this vessel lies the last piece of the Starborn code. Protect it, or the galaxy will burn. Rick whispered, What the hell did I buy? Behind him, Zelia stepped into the light. Now you know why they're coming, why they'll never stop. The next morning, things got worse, because bounty hunters showed up. 3 of them. One had robot arms and a rocket launcher for a head. The second was a giant bug in a trench coat. The third, a smooth-talking human who smiled too much. We're here for the girl, the human said, aiming a gun at Rick. You can keep the ship, maybe even the wedding ring. Rick tried to stall. She's not a girl. She's a genetically engineered alien warrior queen who may or may not have hidden powers and is definitely not giving herself up. The bounty hunter blinked. Wait, she doesn't know yet? Rick's blood ran cold. Know what? The bug thing laughed. Oh, buddy, you didn't just marry an alien. You married a weapon. Things went nuclear. Zelia's markings glowed. Her eyes turned brighter than stars. She moved like lightning dodging bullets, flipping over the robot guy and slamming the trenchcoat bug into a wall. Rick? Rick hid behind a crate and yelled. Helpful things like, yeah, get him, and watch out for the never mind. When the smoke cleared, the bounty hunters were unconscious. The cargo bay was in flames, and Rick's pants were slightly on fire. He stood, coughing. Okay, new rule. No more auctions. Zelia looked at her hands, shaking slightly. That power, it's not just mine. It's waking up. Rick said nothing, because in the corner of the room, the old ship console flickered again. And new message appeared. Coordinates uploaded. Destination locked. Vault of the Fallen Kings. Entry requires royal DNA. Bonded partner. Weapon key. Rick read it slowly. Weapon. Key. That's you, isn't it? Zelia's voice was quiet. And you are the key holder now. Rick sat down hard. Great. So we're married, hunted, cursed, and about to unlock something. That could blow up a star. She looked at him. Do you regret buying the ship? He sighed. Regret the ship? Maybe. But the wife? He smirked. You grow on me. Outside, in the blackness of space, another ship appeared much larger. Watching waiting asterisk. Secrets in the steel. Asterisk Rick. Granger had been through a lot in 48 hours. He had bought a rust bucket freighter at a shady auction. He'd accidentally married a glowing alien warrior. He'd been shot at, chased, almost exploded twice, and now the ship had started talking. Out loud with an attitude. He stood in the engine room, eyes wide, mouth open. The walls were glowing with ancient symbols, and the voice came from everywhere. It was cold, metallic, and just a little sarcastic. Oh, good. The monkey finally found the core. Bravo. You may now stop pushing random buttons before you kill us all. Rick pointed a finger upward. What the hell is that? Zelia stepped beside him, calm as ever. That is the ship. Rick turned to her. You didn't think to tell me it could talk? She shrugged. It only speaks to bonded pairs. You activated it when you accepted the bond. Rick's eye twitched. I didn't accept anything. I bought a broken ship, and now I've got a talking metal ghost calling me Monkey Boy. Correction. The ship replied, You bought a Legacy-class starburn vessel. I am not a ghost. I am an artificial intelligence built by the architects of the Lost Suns. And you, Captain Rick Granger, are severely underqualified. The AI's name was Calyx. And oh boy, it had opinions. It hated Rick's flying. It criticized his diet. It refused to play music unless Rick said, please. And it kept reminding him that he technically married a bioweapon bride of royal lineage. Zelia, on the other hand, seemed to enjoy Calyx's company. It's nice to hear his voice again, she said, almost smiling. Nice? Rick replied. I feel like I'm stuck in a haunted toaster with a god complex. But Calyx wasn't just here to roast Rick. It had information. Listen closely, Monkey. Captain. Inside this ship is a vault. You've already seen part of it. But you don't understand what it holds. Zelia was not just a guard. She was designed as the key. Her DNA, her energy, she is the last living heir of the Starburn. And inside this vault is the thing that ended their empire. Rick frowned. What kind of thing? A weapon. One that doesn't just kill. It rewrites reality. Silence. Even Zelia looked surprised. I didn't know that part. Calyx continued. Because you weren't meant to. Your creators feared you would reject your purpose. And now, that fear may become prophecy. Rick backed away slowly. Okay, you're telling me my accidental wife is a walking doomsday device? Technically, Calyx replied. She's a genetically enhanced time fracture conduit bonded to a spatial rewrite engine. So yes, Rick whispered. Asterisk. That's when the lights flickered. The ship shook. Calyx's voice turned serious. Incoming signal. Unknown frequency. Not from this timeline. Rick's jaw dropped. Wait, not from this timeline? You mean like time travel? Zelia stood tall. No, worse. Timeline invaders. The view screen activated. And what Rick saw made his stomach drop. A ship. Not built by hands. Not built by anything sane. It twisted in space like it was alive. Its shape constantly changed, shifting between forms. Wolf, serpent, cube, star. It was a living nightmare made of metal and void. Calyx whispered, almost afraid. Greater than reality eaters. The Starborn called them the Hollow. They destroyed everything. And now they've found us. The ship's alarm screamed. Rick grabbed the controls. Can we run? Not far. They will follow. They always follow. Zelia moved to the center of the room. Her hands started to glow. The vault must be opened, she said. I need to remember who I was. Rick shook his head. Wait, you said unlocking the vault could unleash something catastrophic. She looked at him with fire in her eyes. So could not unlocking it. The Hollow are here, Rick. If we don't fight back, reality dies. Calyx hissed in warning. Activating vault key may accelerate her transformation. She may not survive it. Rick's voice cracked. Then we don't do it. There has to be another way. But Zelia had already begun the sequence. The vault chamber opened like a flower blooming in reverse. Lights swirled. The air cracked. Rick ran to her. Stop. Just wait, we'll figure this out together. But Zelia smiled through the pain. We are together, Rick. That's why I can do this. A beam of light shot from her chest into the heart of the ship. The ship trembled. Calyx screamed. Warning. Energy signature matches Starborn God weapon protocol. A shockwave blasted out, and suddenly, the ship vanished. Not destroyed, removed. From time, Rick blinked. 1 second. They were on the ship. The next, they were floating in a white void. Zelia was unconscious in his arms. Calyx was silent. A voice echoed from all directions. You have awakened the key. Now choose. Save your world, or save your wife. You cannot do both. Rick looked down at her. And he whispered, like hell I can't. Galactic hitchhikers. Rick Granger woke up floating. Not in water. Not in space. In nothing. Just a white void with no floor, no ceiling, and no wi-fee. He looked down. He was standing, somehow, but also not. Zelia was lying beside him, unconscious, glowing faintly. Her body shimmered like static, flickering in and out of time. And Rick. Poor Rick, he had one. Thought racing through his mind. I should have just bought the scooter. Suddenly, the void cracked like glass. Reality snapped back into place with a sound like thunder being eaten alive. Rick and Zelia dropped hard onto the cold floor of the ship's vault room. Calyx rebooted with a scream. System stabilized. Temporal slip. 4.3 hours lost. Warning. All timelines now watching. Rick groaned. Great. We're on some kind of cosmic live stream. Zelia sat up, clutching her head. Her voice was weak. Something's wrong. I saw them. The Hollow. They're already inside the cracks. Calyx interrupted. We must. Move. The vault is open. The weapon inside is alive. But it needs pieces to complete. Rick blinked. Pieces? Yes. Scattered across the galaxy. Hidden by the Starborn to keep the weapon from ever being whole again. Unless we gather them. Zelia's transformation will kill her. Rick stood up fast. Then let's find those pieces? You'll need a crew, Calyx said coldly. And not the friendly neighborhood pilot type. You'll need monsters, Rick grinned. Well, I do know a few. Scrapwall Station. Outlaw Docking Zone #9 Rick landed the ship on Scrapwall. Giant floating pile of rusted ships, broken satellites, shady noodle shops, and dreams that died quietly in alleyways. He used to hate this place? No. It felt like home. We need allies, Rick said. People who don't ask too many questions. Or better, people who don't care about the answers. The crew, the rejects of the Galaxy 1. ZINN, a robotic assassin turned pacifist philosopher, has killed 1,734 people. Now runs a juice bar. 2. MUK, a shape-shifting alien slime who's scared of loud noises, hugs, and emotional conversations. 3. Vera Vic's former bounty hunter, currently on the run for punching a space judge, specializes in explosives and sarcasm. Rick offered them one thing: danger, mystery, and almost certain death. They all said yes, except Muck Muck. He screamed for 12 minutes and then oozed into a backpack, which was apparently his comfort zone. Back aboard the ship, Calyx wasn't impressed. A talking blender, a walking mood swing, and a slime with commitment issues. Excellent. We are doomed. Rick rolled his eyes. They're survivors. We don't need heroes. We need weirdos who won't blink when the laws of physics collapse. The crew's first stop, a planet called Corvax Prime.Y. Because it held the first fragment, a piece of the ancient Starborn weapon, locked inside a temple that only opens once every 100 years. Today was that day. Perfect timing. Or terrible luck. Spoiler. It's both. The Temple of the Forgotten Pulse. They landed in the middle of a desert storm. Red lightning tore through the sky. The temple was half buried, covered in warnings in a language only Zelia could read. She touched the stone gate. It opened. Inside, the walls breathed. Literally, the temple was alive. Why does the floor have teeth? Rick whispered. No idea, Vera said, loading a plasma shotgun. But I'm shooting it anyway. They made their way to the center chamber. A pulsing orb floated above an altar. The first fragment. Zelia approached, but froze. Her eyes widened. The hollow are already here. The shadows twisted. Voices whispered backwards. Rick turned just in time to see something crawl out of the wall, a creature made of mirrors and screams. Muck Muck passed out in his backpack. Zinn activated his peace protocols and politely threatened the entity within the entity with annihilation. The battle began. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't clean. And at one point, Rick fought a floating hand made of clocks. But they got the fragment. Barely. XEL. You held it to her chest. The glow from her body stabilized. Her voice was clearer. I remember now. The next piece. Is on a prison planet called Red Rise. Rick groaned. Oh no, I definitely have enemies there. Back on the ship, as they flew away from the collapsing temple, Calyx gave one last warning. Each piece you find will awaken. More of the hollow. And each time, Zelia will come closer to becoming what the Starborn feared. Rick looked at her. Her face was calm, but her hands? Already glowing. And he asked himself the question he was starting to fear the answer to. Am I still trying to save her? Or stop her? The betrayal protocol. The crew was silent as the ship approached Red Rise, a planet that looked like a bleeding scar floating in space. Volcanoes bubbled on the surface. Orbiting ships were rusted, hacked together things held by duct tape. And fear. The prison there didn't need walls, because no one who landed ever left. Rick stared through the cockpit window and sighed. Feels like home. Zelia didn't speak. She hadn't spoken much since the last fragment dot she was changing. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her voice echoed, sometimes when she walked through doors. The walls bent around her like they were afraid. Rick tried to tell himself it was fine, that it wasn't. They were here for the second fragment, locked inside a maximum security vault beneath the prison. The only way in? Let themselves get arrested, Dot. Oh yeah. Great plan. Inside Red Rise, things went sideways almost immediately. Vera punched a guard before they even made it through processing. Zin short-circuited 6 cameras just by existing. Muck melted into a drain and disappeared for hours. He claimed it was strategic reconnaissance. Rick and Zelia were thrown into a cell together. Not for safety, but because the prison scanners couldn't decide if she was alive or a weapon. Waiting to detonate. Zelia sat on the bench, silent. ***. Rick leaned against the wall. You okay? She looked at him and smiled. But her smile wasn't Zelia's. It was something else. Something ancient. Meanwhile, back on the ship, CALYX was on lockdown. The AI's voice buzzed in a panicked whisper. Warning. Unknown code detected. Ship systems breached. Inside the control room, someone was hacking the ship, not from the outside, from the crew. Back in the prison, Rick finally got answers. A mysterious inmate approached an old alien named Trask, covered in symbols, eyes glowing with low radiation. You're carrying the Starburn Echo, he said, pointing at Zelia. I saw one like her before, decades ago. It killed an entire moon. Rick swallowed. She's not like that, Trask chuckled. They all say that, until she becomes what she was built to be. Meanwhile, Vera was breaking into the prison's lower levels. She had one mission. Get the second fragment before anyone else. But her cum crackled and a voice whispered in her ear. You've done well. Now give us the girl. It wasn't Rick's voice. It was her real boss. Betrayal hit fast and hard. As Rick and Zelia escaped their cell and reached the fragment. Chamber Vera was already waiting. Gun raised. Cold eyes. No jokes this time. Sorry. Cap, she said. I like you, but I like surviving more. Rick froze. You sold us out? She didn't answer, but behind her, the Hollow's shadow form crept along the walls, waiting. Feeding. XEL. Yes, stepped forward. She looked at Vera and said one word. Kneel. Reality bent. Vera dropped to her knees, screaming. Her mind filled with stars, fire, and forgotten timelines. Rick grabbed Zelia's arm. Stop. That's not you. Her eyes turned to him. You don't know who I am anymore. They escaped. Barely. The Hollow took Vera. Rick couldn't save her. Zin and Muck managed to reboot Calyx and pull the ship into low orbit for a pickup. Inside the ship. Zelia locked herself in the vault chamber. The second fragment pulsed. In her chest, her body shimmered, no longer quite flesh. No longer just Zelia. Rick stood outside the sealed doors, fists clenched. Calyx whispered, She is evolving. Faster than we predicted. Her identity may not survive. The next piece lies in the crown of silence, the dead system where time collapsed. Rick turned away, and for the first time, he asked himself the question that chilled him to his core. If saving her means destroying who she is, am I saving her at all? Rick's last ride. Location. The crown of silence, a dead star system. No signals. No time. No hope. No one comes here. because once you cross into it, you forget who you are. Rick stared at the window as the crown grew. Closer, 7 stars black, frozen, orbiting a point of pure nothing. No light escaped. The universe around them hummed, like it was holding its breath. Calyx was glitching. Error. Time stream unstable. Multiple versions of you detected. Rick frowned. I'm sorry, multiple what? You. Variants of you. Some screaming, some laughing, all broken. Muck-Muck whimpered from the vents. I don't. Like this place. It feels like it's thinking about me. Zin, the robot, stared blankly. This system was erased 40,000 years ago. I died here once. I remember now. Rick rubbed his eyes. Okay, that's not creepy at all. Zelia stood near the vault door, barely speaking now. Her body was 40% energy. Her hair floated like it was underwater. Her voice echoed even in silence. She didn't eat. She didn't sleep. She just whispered names no one remembered. And every few hours, she said the same thing. He's coming. Asked her once, who? Her answer, you. As they entered the crown, time broke. Literally. The ship fractured into 3 parallel timelines at once. In one, Rick was alone, Zelia gone, the ship abandoned, haunted by whispers. In another, Rick was dead, and Zelia ruled the stars, wearing a crown of black light. In the third, Rick never bought the ship. He was still on Drelos 4, drinking stale coffee, wondering why he felt like something was missing. Asterisk all 3 versions. Screamed into each other, their memories bleeding across timelines. Rick clutched his head. Make IT stop. Calyx reappeared, damaged but still functional. The third fragment is near, but warning, final lock requires a sacrifice. Rick spat blood. What kind of sacrifice? Your life, or hers? They found the temple, floating in the center of the dead system, built around a star that hadn't shined in 1,000,000 years. Inside it, a mirror, but not any mirror. This one reflected truths. Rick looked into it and saw something that shattered him. He didn't just marry Zelia. He'd been chosen. Long ago, the ship hadn't been sold to him. It had been sent to him. He wasn't a hero. He was the final trigger. Zelia stepped beside him. Her eyes now glowed like suns. Her skin shimmered like galaxies. I remember now, she said. You were always meant to be here. Rick backed away. You're not you anymore, she nodded. I'm more than me, and I still love you. But love doesn't stop destiny. Then he made the call dot while the crew argued. Rick walked into the core. He linked himself to the starburn engine. Calyx screamed. What are you doing? You'll burn. Rick smiled sadly. Maybe, but I've got one more ride left. He overcharged the core, broke the mirror, and triggered the vault one final time in the process. He wiped the hollow from that system, but he also shattered the timeline. Asterisk, when Zelia found him, he was barely alive. But she knelt beside him and whispered something ancient. A blessing. A curse. I will find you again, she said. In another life, in another sky. And then he vanished. The crew escaped with fragments in hand. Calyx rebooted the ship's memory logs, but Rick Granger? Gone. Or. So it seemed, because somewhere, in a looped corner of reality, a man wakes up in a tiny room, next to a junky freighter. He doesn't remember how he got there, but there's a strange, violet-skinned woman knocking on the door, smiling like she knows him. Hello, Captain, she says. I think we have unfinished business. Asterisk, the bond that wins, asterisk, somewhere between time and space, a man breathes. Rick Granger blinks awake inside a strange room, lit by stars that don't belong to any known galaxy. He doesn't know where he is. or when, but the ship feels familiar. So does the voice. "Welcome back, Captain," Calyx says. "We found your spark in the loop, rebuilt what we could." Rick stares into a mirror. Half his face is human, half ... is something else, golden, starborn, "Guess I got a cosmic upgrade," he mutters. "You didn't come back alone," Calyx says. Behind him, the vault pulses. The final fragment is complete. And Zelia, his wife, his weapon, his war is floating in the core chamber, suspended in light. She is no longer just Zelia. She is the Starborn Queen. Meanwhile, outside the ship, the Hollow arrive. Millions of them, not ship shapes. Vorms, made of light, eyes made of silence. Voices speaking in reverse. They don't want war. They want erasure. All timelines, all versions. Gone. Inside the ship, the crew prepares for one last stand. Muk sharpens himself into spikes. Zin meditates while charging a weapon that shouldn't exist. Even Calyx activates its Omega protocol, something it swore it would never do again. But Rick? He walks into the vault. Alone, Zelia opens her eyes. They're like two suns collapsing. "I warned you," she says. "If I complete the transformation, I won't be me anymore." Rick smiles sadly. "Maybe you'll be something better." "No," she says. "I'll be something necessary." The Hollow breach the ship. Time slows. Calyx screams. The crew fights. Reality fractures. Rick kisses Zelia's forehead and whispers something we'll never hear. Then he steps into the vault with her. Two become light. The vault opens fully. And the weapon? It's not a bomb. It's a rewrite. A last chance. In a burst of golden light. Every version of Rick across all timelines chooses the same thing. Her, not the galaxy. Not the weapon. Not the war. Just her. The Hollow scream. And then, they are gone. Not destroyed. Erased from ever having existed. 1 week later. The galaxy is silent. Peaceful. Stars shine brighter. On a quiet planet, a small ship lands in a meadow. The hatch opens. Out walks a man in a brown jacket and mismatched boots. Behind him, a woman with glowing eyes and violet skin, who laughs like a human and hums like a memory. Rick and Xelia. Alive. Together, but different. No longer weapons. No longer hunted. Just travelers. As they walk into the horizon, Calyx hums inside the ship. "So. Where to next, Captain?" Rick grins. "Somewhere quiet, with snacks and maybe a beach." Zelia nods. "And no Hollow." Rick laughs. "No promises." Asterisk. The ship lifts into the sky. The stars form the shape of a ring like a wedding band. A voice echoes, soft and distant. "He bought a cheap ship at an auction and accidentally saved the universe."